Thanks for joining me today on our stop in Bryan, Ohio. Today, we're going to stop at this small Amtrak shelter. It might look modest, but it stands at the crossroads of candy empires, toy icons, and jet-powered trains. Also, it has one of the tallest clock towers in the Midwest. As always, for these station stops, I have gone out and gathered any Amtrak materials, historical records, anything I can find in regard to historic registries, online articles. This time I even received a handout at the county courthouse. They had like a little packet to share about the construction of the building that I did not find that information online anywhere else. I wasn't able to do any recording in that building. They didn't allow it, but I did go through and walk it and get to see it. I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. We did go ahead and walk at the station grounds. We went to the physical store for the Spangler Candy Company. Like I said, we did walk around the courthouse, although we couldn't film inside. And we did also go there during June, during the Bryan Jubilee. So although we were there early, we did get some footage of them setting up and the different types of food, concessions, rides, things like that you should expect for the Jubilee. So all the things that I talk about are the most current references and architectural documentation, research, things like that I've done. Bryan, Ohio has an interesting history. In 1966, it was actually the location of the fastest train on record in North America at 183.85 miles. That record is still held till today. Also, as I said before, it has a county courthouse with a really unique building style that is capped with a 3,000-pound bell. And right down the street from that is the Spangler Candy Factory, which makes 10 million Dum Dum lollipops a day. So, like I said, it's an interesting juxtaposition. It's a really interesting town to visit. So, a couple of the things that we're going to talk about is Bryan's beginnings, like where it started. We'll talk about the county courthouse, like I said, because it is a really interesting design that's not very common. We'll talk about the depot, the railroads, as well as that jet speed record. We'll talk about industry and enterprise in the town. School, art, band traditions. Band is really big in Bryan. You'll find out why shortly. We'll talk about the Amtrak station as it is presently, as well as its future, and just community life and events in general. So Bryan, Ohio started in 1840 when it was platted. It became the Williams County seat. And it was named Williams County after the Revolutionary War hero who helped capture British spy John Andre. So John Andre was the person that Benedict Arnold was actually conspiring with on the English side. So that's an interesting sort of piece of history there right from the start. Interesting town. The courthouse itself was built between 1889 and 1891. It is a modified French Baroque style with Romanesque revival influence. So as you look at the building, it has basically a base that has tons of Richardsonian Romanesque elements. The carved brick, the rough hewn brick, filigree style stone, and then it has a lot of red brick towers. It has a really busy roof line. It's just a really unique structure to see in person. The red bricks came from Chicago. The Berea and Amherst sandstone, of course, came from Ohio. It was hand carved by Scottish stonecutters who carved it 125 feet in the air on narrow scaffolding. The tower itself at the top is 26 feet square. It has walls that are 3 feet thick, and it's said that it took 35,000 bricks per 4-foot layer. So that's a lot of bricks. Like I said, inside they didn't allow me to film anything, but it does have marble floors, granite pillars, and then the roof, the original roof was a slate roof supported on steel beams. The bell, the 3,000-pound bell, was installed in 1891, And the original Seth Thomas clock was $999. I think that's really cute because it's just a smidge under $1,000. It was renovated in the U.S. Bicentennial in 1976 for a cost of $12,000. Like I said, we did stop by the Third Rail Saloon, which is actually the old depot at the railroad station. Bryan joined the Michigan, Southern, and Northern Indiana Railway airline in the 1850s. This is a really straight section of track between Toledo, Ohio, and Elkhart, Indiana. The original depot, like I was saying, with its classic bay window, has been repainted and repurposed today as that third rail station. Across the tracks from that is the New York Central Freight House that remains as well. The current Amtrak station was built in the 1980s. It is one of the poorer Amtrak stations that I've seen. It does need a lot of help. However, according to the Amtrak website, it is due a $5 million ADA upgrade. It says underway in 2024, but when we visited in 2025 in June, they had not yet begun. Now, it's possible that they're just doing some pre-construction work at this point, and they haven't actually started on the site. So let's move on to Bryan's early history and its roots. So the Bryan Plow Company and Bryan Manufacturing built plows and wheelbarrows for nearby farmers. And I think it was on Friday, they were saying that they normally have like the farmers do their market. In 1906, the Spangler Candy Company started and they began making sweets. Today, they make those 10 million Dum Dum lollipops every day. They also make candy canes and circus peanuts, which my husband claims he loved as a child. And when I asked him what they tasted like, he had no idea. He claimed that he had eaten them since and did not know why he enjoyed these as a child. But when I asked what they did taste like, he didn't really have an answer. So I thought that was cute. Also, Bryan in 1912, the Ohio Art Company moved to Bryan, Ohio. And in the 1960s, they launched the Etch-a-Sketch, which was a super popular toy when I was growing up, which I believe they still do sell, although most kids these days are looking at a different type of screen, right? They do have a Carnegie Library in town. It was built in 1903. We did stop by and see it, and it was funny because I wasn't able to find a historic photo without cars parked out front. And then when I was there were cars parked out front. And when I went back to do more research, I actually found images of the interurban like trolley car in the middle of the street as well. So I was not very successful at getting a good picture of this building without any vehicles in front of it, unfortunately. We were able to stop by the Bryan Theater, which is the movie house in town. It was very cool. This downtown reminded me a lot of the Back to the Future town. But anyway, the Bryan Theater has like an Art Deco design. They had the Art Deco doors still, which were fabulous, as well as the front of the building was very Art Deco. We did go in the lobby and talk to the concessionaires. They were super nice, and they directed us upstairs. On the landing, they had a bunch of historical photos and some memorabilia about the theater. So that was really cool. It is one of those John Eberson fantasy movie palaces. It was built in 1939. And again, like I said, it was just a really cool space to be in. Bryan is a really interesting juxtaposition of so many different things. And one of the things that I found so interesting about this town is their band. It was founded in 1852, and since 1888, it has had three band leaders. From 1888 to 1925 was Professor E.A. Tubbs. From 1925 to 1962 was Dale Connon. And from 1962 to today is John Hartman. The Bryan Band has been playing music and doing summer concerts on Wednesdays for 150 years. So that was something really unique about this town. Again, let's go back over to the station and talk a little bit more about that. Bryan is served by the Lakeshore Limited with early morning arrivals and departures. That new ADA station, like I said, once built, will greatly improve access. Although there is access right now, there is a wheelchair lift. There is ADA parking. I didn't see any obstructions or issues with getting on and off the train for the station. But like I said, it could do it with an upgrade. When we were in the downtown area, like I said, it was very walkable. It is historic. It has that homey, like Midwest hospitality sort of feel. We did find an Airbnb right next to the movie house, as well as some rooms that were available at the Father John's Brewery. Food-wise, like I said, we were there during the Jubilee, so there was tons of different hibachi and gyros and french fries and things like that on the square. But in the downtown area itself, there was Seasons Coffees, Father John's Microbrewery, and Jackie Blues. So there's a lot to choose from there. As far as community life and events go, that Bryan Jubilee, that's in June, where they have rides and concerts and vendors and all those things in that town square. Also on Wednesday night, they have the band playing. And then they do those farmers markets from May to October where they offer fresh produce, handmade goods, those sorts of things. Thursday nights, they do a cruise in with like historic cars. People bring their classic cars and like put them around the square. We weren't there on a Thursday, but they do exist. Lincoln Park does offer a fully inclusive playground, so that was really good to know as well if you're staying in town. And the Fountain City Amphitheater, when we were there, they were actually doing a show called Jurassic Park Live. I had never heard of this, but it is the cutest thing ever. It was stunt dogs combined with sort of a Jurassic Park sort of feel. They were all rescue dogs, and they travel the US and do shows and tricks. So that was really cute. But like I said, if you're looking for more information on the station or the Lakeshore Limited, footage, the journey, whatever you want to call it, feel free to look at our other videos that focus either, like I said, on the station information or on the actual journey and what it looks like riding to and from the station. But thanks for joining us, the Whistle Stop Wanderers, and we will see you on the rails.